everybody! Today we're in America. Well, the bit of America that looks quite like Essex on a slightly grey day anyway. But mentally, I'm a retiree down in Florida. Or maybe a young man about town in the 60s cruising up the Pacific Coast Highway. Either way, this is a good place to be. A few years ago, if you'd asked me, I would have said this would have been one of my least favouriteest cars ever. A great big wallowy American convertible with a thumping big engine and a slushy-matic gearbox in it. As it happens, as I've mellowed, so have my tastes, and my palate has also broadened somewhat. And that's why I'm very excited today to drive an Oldsmobile 442. This is another car supplied to me by the good people down at Total Headturners in Epping. They've been very good to me, and if it weren't for them, I'd have had very little content to put out during lockdown. I did a huge batch of filming just before things kicked in, and I've been able to continue with them now that restrictions have lifted just a little bit. Sadly, the weather that we were blessed with for so much of the restrictive movement has gone away. I'm hoping it'll return, but to be fair, if I stay dry, I'll be happy enough. So, what's the 442 all about? I suspect you, like me, probably imagine that the reason it's called the 442 is because it has a 442 cubic inch engine. That is not the case. 442 in fact refers to the specification of these cars. They had, as standard equipment, a 4-barrel Holley carburetor, a 4-speed manual gearbox, and twin exhausts. Unfortunately, as is often the case with cars from this period, somebody decided they didn't want that simple, basic manual gearbox, and they instead wanted this 3-speed, technologically advanced, I'm sure they thought it was, auto. In all honesty, it suits the character of this car very well indeed. Although it's not a 442 up front, it's still not lacking in capacity. It's a 400 cubic inch unit, which is about 6.6 litres. It produces about 350 horsepower, although I think that is measured using the old American system. So it's probably not really 350 as we understand it, but honestly, for a car like this, it's more than adequate. It's all about the torque, and on that front, it has plenty. Really, this is not a car about numbers at all. What I can tell you is that it is a 69, and by the time this car came out, the 442 or 442 was considered very much its own model. You can tell later cars apparently by the fact that the grille was split with 442 badging in the middle. Sat inside, it is exactly what you'd imagine it to be. Lots and lots of vinyl and black plasticky kind of stuff. Some, I suspect, mock imitation wood. Very, very retro dials we've got over here. Fuel gauge, which goes down rather quickly. We've got a speedo in the middle, which goes up to 120. And on the right, a clock. No rev counter anywhere. There is a heater in here, an old AM radio, which has some funny options on it. And down here we've got a couple of modern gauges which have been installed for temperature and oil pressure, just to help you keep an eye on things. It is a very easy car to drive. With the roof down, which is the only way you'd ever want to experience this car, it does in fact have a powered roof. You can operate it here, but I'm not going to go anywhere near that. A, because I'd worry that I would break it, and B, because, well, this is the way to experience this car, isn't it? Tonneau cover on the back, and its owner tells me that this is how it's been since they got it. It hasn't been in this country too long, and it underwent a 10-year-long rolling restoration, I assume, in America before it came over. It looks really, really good. Lovely little details like the little red markings on the tyres just suit it down to the ground. This cream paintwork is in very good condition, and this car is surprisingly free of creaks, rattles, and everything else. The owners took an awful lot of time trying to pick out the very best example that they could find, and although I don't really know that much about these cars, I'll be totally honest, I expect this is probably as good as they get. Now, with the roof down, visibility, like I say, is superb. You have one wing mirror, there's none over there, none that I can see anyway, and you've got your rearview mirror here, which is ridiculously wide, and you may have spotted something unusual behind us, which I will be reviewing later on, so don't worry about that. The suspension is as floaty as you would expect it to be, and the steering, oh, the steering. You don't know dodgy power steering until you've tried 1960s American power steering. But let's see if it makes the right noises, shall we? Yes, it does. Oh, yes. This is a car that has gone to the Brian Blessed School of Gordon's Alive. It makes the right noises. Even the seats seem to be really springy. It's a sort of bench type configuration in the front, although I don't know, I'm not sure there's enough. Yeah, it's a two-seater with 2 or 3 in the back. Really, the kind of situation that I would use this car for is taking the family out for a nice picnic, for a lovely day out, for a trundle through the countryside, for these kind of roads, but with slightly better weather. And for that, it would be absolutely spot on. It is one of those cars where your expectations of it are matched entirely by the reality. And what are the expectations of a car like this? Well, you want it to sound good. Check. You want it to be floaty and wibbly. Check. You want it to be as big as a whale, as the B-52s once said. Check. And you want it to be just wafterific. It's awesome. People love it. People wave. People smile. And look, here is the dead simple truth about something like this Olds. This is not a car that anyone could ever make any sort of logical argument for. Anybody that tries to tell you that this is going to be a car that handles or goes better or is faster or is more practical or usable than anything else even remotely modern, just don't bother. Don't try. It's lies, all lies. This is a car that is 100% pure, simple, unadulterated experience. And if the word Americana conjures up a positive, beautiful image of 1950s diners and things like that, and that's the kind of thing you want to get on board with, this is the car for you. For everybody else, don't even bother. It's not that slow. I'm probably being harsh to it, and the thing is that it's judged so well for this kind of driving. It's a very, very smooth power plant as well, and it's not these bumps, like, I know I'm going over them. I know that I am, and yet somehow no information whatsoever is coming through. I drove very recently a Citroen DS. That's also a car which has the most sublime suspension, and they take a very technological approach to it. A very methodical one, did the French. And I can see very clearly why that kind of car just wouldn't have sold in America. They had no interest in small little 4-cylinder cars. 1950s America was a very, very different place to 1950s France. It was probably a lot more hopeful than Europe, which had been battered after the Second World War. Oi, if you brake, be ready. Very little happens, then quite a bit happens. It actually does, there's a fair amount of retardation occurs. And, but it's just a car you get into a rhythm with. And that rhythm is just, I mean, okay, let's do the thing. Little finger. Yes. Very easy indeed. I love it. Beautiful car. Credit to its owner. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.